So we've all heard that content is king, and our next speaker tackles a big question around that statement. How does a brand studio operating in a media company where content is king embrace emerging technologies in the campaigns that it creates for advertisers? Tom Napoli, the Viacom Velocity's Senior Director of Content and Platform Strategy, will now take the stage to discuss a real-world example of how his team is overcoming the challenges that come with integrating new tech into their client capabilities. Let's welcome Tom.
Let me figure out this clicker. See, this is actually a good way to start talking about embracing new technology, I guess. I'm going to work with technology from the 90s here. There we go. Okay. So my name is Tom, and I work with Velocity, which is the integrated marketing studio at Viacom. So we work across all of the major music and entertainment brands at Viacom. So that's MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, Spike, which is soon to become the Paramount Network. And our job is fundamentally to work within ad sales and to connect our advertising clients with our channels, our TV shows, our IP, our special events. So we need to find ways to weave them into that. But we're also a company that's kind of sitting at the crossroads of being traditional media, but also new technology. So as storytellers, we think that content is king. We really embrace that, or queen, as RuPaul's on VH1 would want to think about it. But we know that disruptive technologies are constant, whether it's AI, AR, VR, a new social platform we have to work with. We have to find a way to embrace this. So, using the king metaphor, we could either treat disruption as the barbarians at the gate and put walls around us and try to fight it or deny it, or we could treat it like a Renaissance person who's combining art and science and bringing a whole new perspective into the way we can work. So we choose to do the latter, but this is like a total cliche, this whole idea of embracing innovation, because it's really hard, right? Like, especially in a traditional company. So we face challenges every time we try to work with something new, and that's kind of where I come in. The last panel you were talking a little bit about, smart people. So I'm usually the least smart person in the room, and I have to gather smart people around me to make sure that we could use something new in a really cool and creative way. However, I hit challenges immediately. Why? First of all, new technologies are unfamiliar. They're different, right? They're risky. We could try it out and we might fail. What happens if we fail? That's not cool. We have quarterly reports. We want to look good in front of our bosses. This is a big organization. And there's no organizational process for it. Sometimes you literally don't know who you're supposed to ask for approvals on something. So we have to kind of come up with ways to build new systems in order to integrate anything new. Even scarier. So a new technology comes out, everyone's really excited about it. It's been on the cover of Fast Company, there have been some South by panels about it, and then the hype fades down. And that's when I have to start convincing internal stakeholders that we need to start testing it. Why do we need to start testing it now? Because basically we have that window of time between, in the depths of the trough of sorrow before when things start scaling to figure out how to use it ourselves. Because as soon as a brand comes to us and wants to work with something, AI, AR, VR, whatever, we have to be ready to meet it. So now we need to start convincing internal stakeholders in a traditional media company, you need to try working out with this whole new thing that's kind of sucking right now and no one really cares about it anymore. That's where we live. However, and this is a shameless plug for my company, taking risks is in our DNA. So we really tap into that, right? We created the reality show. You're welcome. We put rap music on television, and we took scrappy web series like Broad City and made them into phenomenons on broadcast and streaming TV services. So we have the capability to do this with content. Why can't we do it with new technology? So this summer, as one of my first projects with this team, we decided to take one giant leap into working with the new technology, which is AR. Why is someone talking about AR at an AI conference? Was there a booking problem? Maybe. But what I like to think about happened to address this dancing AR gorilla in the room is that it talks to how a company can integrate something new and different, how we have to create different workflows and processes in order to embrace this. So when we worked with AR, but you could substitute AR for any new technology, we had 5 key objectives. The first was we wanted to separate hype from reality, right? We'd seen it at a million conferences, we'd seen it in magazines, we knew that it was something that people were talking about, but we didn't know, does it really make sense for us? We didn't want to just jump on the bandwagon for the sake of it. But if it was real, we wanted to have a competitive edge in the market. And so about early summer, when we started really thinking about doing this, really late spring, we knew that there was going to be advances in ARKit, ARCore coming in the fall. So we wanted to be ready to meet that, so we had to move fast. And then also, for my sake, I wanted to be able to implement a new repeatable process for innovation in our company. So maybe it's AR today, but it could be AI tomorrow, a new social platform, the next week. And we need to test this on our dime, not a client. So for any advertisers in the room, I take this really seriously. We don't want to test in real time on someone else's project. We don't want to learn in process. We want to actually come in and be masters at this. And finally, we wanted to create a tool that would empower our fans to express their creativity. We'll get into a little bit more about how that played out. So first, we had to design a process for testing. For any of you who are technologists, this is probably pretty straightforward, right? You use Lean, you use Agile, you use design theory. That isn't always an intuitive thing within like a traditional company, right? There are silos, there are people who kind of hold turf in different areas. And so we had to actually invent a process of using design or Agile in order to get people to buy in. So along the way, the first thing we had to start with was find the right tech partner, because basically we're not a tech company, but we had to find someone who shared the same values with us and who wanted to make the same type of content and create the same type of experience we thought our fans would like. So that meant searching through all different festivals, conferences, reading up on every single trade publication we could, until one day, I think it was after going through like 5 or 6 like super slick demos at South by, I was at a party in one of those houses, one of those like party houses, I forget the name of the street, and I saw a bunch of people crowded around a guy with a cell phone, with a smartphone. And so everyone was kind of looking over his shoulder, seeing what he was doing. So I go over, I say, he's dropping a poodle onto a table and it's dancing around. And then he pans it around, and then he's dropping Donald Trump onto, the other side of the patio. It was all photorealistic AR holograms. And the thing that really struck me about it was like how kind of punk rock this app was, because it was a little bit janky. The quality was still a little bit, like low res, but it kind of was achieving this product market fit because people were asking, where can I get this? They were trying to download it. They were opening up, the app store on their phones, and like, oh, this is actually, people want to use this. The other stuff I'd seen all day long was really slick, but no one was really saying, how can I get this on my phone immediately? So then we brought it back into the company, and we determined, all right, well, where's the best place that this is going to fit into at Viacom? And that involved putting together a team of people who can help us integrate it in. And that was kind of like the scary part, because I was really afraid that I can lose control of this project. And this is like kind of becoming my baby now. But so I kind of had to bring in people who would be collaborative, who are super smart, and who would also bring something to the process and shared my same enthusiasm for it. And so this became people who worked across all different divisions, people from marketing, people from social media strategy. There's someone who's actually in charge of, you'll find out what we made into an AR component, but one person who runs this one particular piece of IP. Then we defined a piece of IP that we could actually leverage for it. So I wanted to do something really simple, so I thought, oh, we'll maybe partner with a dancer who's popular on social media. And we'll have them create a little dance video. We can put that into this AR experience, and we'll have fans create and share their own dances. Easy. So we'll do that. We'll run a test. Keep it nice and quiet. So what ended up happening was this little quiet test launched in the middle of the VMAs, our biggest tentpole event of the year, using our biggest piece of IP, the Moon Person. So what we did was, this multidisciplinary team came together. We started doing prototypes. And so, we started with this notion of, we're going to use a few dancers. We're going to capture them in Hollow's photorealistic motion capture technology. We're going to make it available on Hollow's app. We're going to promote it from different, places on MTV, through different influencers. That's it. Someone in the room says, you know what? We should actually do this to promote the VMAs. And then someone else said, we should use the Moon Person. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because these are like sacred assets for our company. So I just kind of sat back and I'm like, okay, cool, we'll do that. And then someone else said, well, what about instead of the dance moves that we're going to have the dancers do, we can have the character do all different dance moves that are trending on social media right now, which means we have a higher chance once this thing goes out there in SEO of like on YouTube and Google. picking it up as people are posting and calling out the moves they're doing. Great. So we put it out there, we put it onto an app called Hollow, and we started promoting it from all different places. We promoted it from MTV's accounts, we promoted it from influencers' accounts. And what ended up happening is it actually just kind of took off. And so as it was going out there, we decided, well, what are the metrics that really matter, right? When you're working with a new technology, you don't want to like hold yourself to vanity metrics, right? And so we knew it was going to, perform pretty well because it's MTV. MTV is pretty big, right? But the thing that mattered to me was how long will people actually spend inside of one of these user sessions? I don't really care how many people are going to see it. I don't really care how many impressions I'm going to get. That's great. But what I want to know is, as a branded content exercise, how much time could we get someone to actually spend interacting with a brand? In the case of Hollow and with this augmented reality move person, it was 2 minutes and 35 seconds, which is tremendous in an age of 3 second, 6 second, 10-second videos. So as we were leading this process and thinking about how to do it next time, we kind of came away with these key takeaways. So the first one for us was create a process that promotes a collaboration, but for real. Don't just say it, do it. And for a lot of people in the room who are technologists, like, you really have to figure out how to work with and embrace, not just creatives, but some of your clients who are maybe in more traditional places, who are like breaking out of comfort zones. Take a risk. Talk about taking a risk. Talking about, failing. Don't be afraid to fail. That's great. Have a plan in place, though, and that's how we were able to kind of walk things through, is like showing people that this isn't just us taking a risk for the sake of using something cool. We actually had incremental steps along the way so that people can, do check-ins, so people can like add feedback, and so we all felt like we were building something together. And finally, stick to what you're good at. What I mean by that is, at Viacom, we're content people. We're not technology companies. We're not going to make a social media platform. We're not going to make, we're not going to innovate AI algorithms. But what we are going to do is we're going to tell stories, and we're going to tell stories that we could wrap your technology into, your experience into, and we could get it out to fans at scale that way. So we realized, after many years of figuring out what's our place at the crossroads of, traditional media, new technology, we are the storytellers who help bring these experiences to life. So basically, very inspired by, the AR world, or the AI world, rather. So we want to figure out what to do next going into this. And so we have a little clip of some of our best people at the company working on it right now.
Okay, hold on. Alexa, add, hey Siri, call me, okay Google, repeat after me. Alexa, Simon says, suck my big balls in your hairy butthole.
Sorry, it's it's who we are. So if anyone has any questions, if you're ashamed of me and want me to leave for the clip, I could do it. But that's it. I'm happy to talk about how at least we are incorporating all the new cool and exciting stuff that you guys are doing into our workflows. Oh, someone's got to have a question. Come on. There you go.
I'm not very loud, actually.
It's a good question. So 99% of the time, the brands are coming to us with an RFP. And because we're cable people, they're really coming to us with an RFP to make a 30-second spot for linear. So we're putting the rigor behind, demonstrating our ability to create something that could live on social or new technology and kind of going out there into the market, which is one of the reasons why we're doing things like this in the first place, is just to show that, we have the power to do it. Secondarily, though, like the real reason behind doing these, aside from having like a cool package ready for an advertiser once, this is being adopted, is because our channels are actually our partners in coming up with new concepts too. So we want to test it in partnership with them too, so that way they can start doing it more and more. And as our advertisers start seeing us doing something new, they think of us as more than just a 30-second spot on linear TV.
How about e-commerce, television commerce, as things are evolving and more interactive what used to be a traditional media?
Do you mean buying through TV? I mean, we haven't worked with that yet. So we have, it's funny, I was actually talking to a vendor in Tel Aviv about that this week. They've been doing a lot of work with it there. And it's not something that I've interacted with directly, mostly because everything we're doing is more like heavily tied into storytelling. Not to say that you can't tell a story, we're asking someone to buy something, but we haven't We haven't crossed a threshold yet where any of our shows, like a broad city, is going to allow us to send the girls into H&M and then have people buy clothing through it yet. But I think it's definitely an exciting area and worth looking at. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.